It was a small old town, far away from big cities. The streets were always silent at night, and people followed their own strange rules. In this town lived a young man named Armin. He was ordinary, but sometimes his decisions were reckless. He had a habit of questioning the rules that everyone else blindly followed. One evening, Armin made a mistake. No one truly knew what he did, but the whole town believed it was unforgivable. Some said he disrespected their traditions, others whispered that he had broken a secret oath. Whatever the truth was, the leaders of the town gathered, and their faces were serious. The punishment was going to be unusual, something that people would remember forever. The crowd gathered in the town square. Children whispered, old women prayed, and men laughed cruelly. Everyone was curious. Armin stood in the middle, surrounded by lanterns hanging from tall wooden poles. His hands trembled, not because of fear, but because he had no idea what was coming next. The head of the council, an old man with silver hair, finally spoke in a loud voice. Armin has broken the order of our town. For this he shall face a punishment never seen before. From tonight he will not live like one of us. He will be married to a slave. The crowd gasped. Some laughed, others looked at Armin with pity, but then the old man's voice grew darker. Not just any slave, a creature not of this world, an alien, one who stinks, one who disgusts, one who is not even human. This will be his life. This will be his punishment. Armin's heart dropped. He thought it was a joke. Marriage to an alien? This was madness. But no one in the town laughed. Their faces were serious, almost cruel. It was clear, they meant it. The punishment was designed not just to shame him, but to break him. A normal punishment would end one day, but marriage was forever. Everyone knew this. Armin looked around, searching for even one friendly face. But there was none. Every eye was filled with either hatred or amusement. He wanted to scream, to run, but he knew there was no escape. The town believed in its own justice, and justice here was twisted. The next morning, people prepared the place of union. It was not a wedding decorated with flowers or lights. Instead, it was a dirty marketplace, the kind where slaves were sold for coins. Dust covered the ground, and the air smelled of sweat, animals, and rotten food. A wooden stage was built in the center. Armin was pushed onto it, his hands tied with a rough rope. People gathered again, laughing, shouting, some throwing old vegetables at him. Suddenly, a man in black robes arrived. He was a trader, known for bringing strange things from faraway lands. He carried with him a small wooden box that made rattling noises, and behind him walked someone. Covered in torn clothes, the figure was chained from neck to feet. Its steps were heavy, slow, and strange. The people moved back as a strong smell spread through the air. It was the alien slave. The creature's skin was pale, almost gray. Its eyes were larger than any human's, glowing faintly in the dim light. Its hair was messy, black but shining in an unnatural way, and its smell, sharp, stinking like rotten metal mixed with mud, made people cover their noses. The trader shouted, "Here she is, the alien slave, sold for just $5. $5 only for this creature of filth." The people laughed and clapped. $5 was less than the price of a goat. Yet this was the being that Armin would now call his wife. Armin's throat went dry. His body shook. This wasn't a nightmare. It was real. The alien looked at him once, her glowing eyes locking with his. For a moment, he felt something strange, like she could see right inside his soul. The town's council leader raised his hand. From today, Armin is no longer one of us. From today, he is the husband of this alien slave. His punishment begins now. The crowd roared. Some clapped, some whistled, some shouted insults. But through all the noise, Armin heard only one sound, the sound of the alien's breathing. Heavy, slow, almost like a growl. The rope around his hands was cut, but his freedom was gone. The chain that held the alien was placed in his hands. It was cold, heavy, and it felt like the weight of his destiny. Armin wanted to shout, "I am not guilty. This is madness." But the words never left his mouth. Something in the alien's eyes stopped him. The people pushed him, and the alien, off the stage. The punishment was complete. But the real story, the real nightmare, had only just begun. As they walked away from the crowd, Armin felt hundreds of eyes burning into his back. The laughter echoed in his ears. But more than that, it was the alien silence that scared him the most, because silence hides secrets. And this punishment, strange as it was only the beginning of something much darker. The night was restless. Armin could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those glowing alien eyes staring back at him. The memory of the crowd's laughter still echoed in his ears. He sat on the corner of his small, broken wooden bed, staring at the window where the moonlight leaked in. Outside, the town was celebrating his shame. People were drinking, gossiping, making jokes about the alien bride. But inside Armin's heart, there was only fear. He wondered, what kind of life will I live now? Married to something not even human? At dawn, a loud knock shook his door. 3 men from the council entered without waiting for permission. Their faces were stern. "It is time," one of them said coldly. "The alien arrives today. Be ready." Armin wanted to protest, but his voice was trapped inside his throat. He could only nod. The men dragged him outside. The morning sun had just risen, but the bazaar was already crowded. The smell of spices, sweat, and burning wood filled the air. Traders shouted about their goods, children ran barefoot, and beggars stretched their hands for coins. But today, there was something unusual. At the far end of the marketplace, a caravan had arrived. Horses stamped their hooves, pulling a strange cart covered with black cloth. People whispered, pointing at it. They knew what was inside. The slave trader stood tall, dressed in black, robes again. His voice rose above the noise. "People of this town, today the punishment continues. The alien slave, brought from a faraway land, will now be delivered to her new husband." The crowd cheered, some laughing cruelly, some holding their noses. Slowly, the black cloth covering the cart was pulled away. A metal cage was revealed. Inside, chained tightly, sat the alien. Her head was bowed, messy black hair covering most of her face. Her hands were tied with rusted iron, and around her ankles were heavy shackles. She looked weak, almost lifeless. But then, she raised her head. The crowd went silent. Her eyes glowed faintly in the morning sun, large, bright, and strange, as if carrying a light of their own. They weren't human eyes. They were too deep, too sharp, too unsettling. Some people gasped. Others muttered, "Astaghfirullah, ya insan nahin." A child began crying, clinging to his mother. The trader smiled wickedly. "This creature is filth, worthless. I sell her today for $5 only." Laughter erupted again. $5, less than the price of a donkey. People mocked her, spitting on the ground near the cage. Someone shouted, "She stinks worse than a dead cow." Indeed, a sharp, rotten smell filled the air, so strong that people covered their mouths with cloth. Armin felt his stomach twist. The council leader raised his hand, pointing at Armin. "This is your wife now, take her." Armin's feet froze. His chest tightened. His whole body wanted to run, but dozens of eyes burned into him. He stepped forward, slowly. The crowd pushed him closer until he stood in front of the cage. For a brief moment, everything went silent. Only the sound of the alien's breathing remained, heavy, slow, like a dying animal. Then she looked at him. Her glowing eyes pierced through his soul. It felt as if she could see every secret, every fear inside him. Armin's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to look away but couldn't. The trader unlocked the cage. The metal door screeched as it opened. The alien slowly stepped out, her chains clinking with every movement. The smell grew stronger. The crowd shouted insults, some threw stones, but the alien didn't flinch. She only kept staring at Armin. Finally, the chain around her neck was placed in Armin's trembling hands. Cold metal touched his skin. It was official. She was his now, his wife. The crowd roared with laughter, mocking him. Look at the groom and his bride. How romantic. $5 only. But Armin heard none of it. His ears buzzed. His eyes stayed locked with the aliens. Deep inside he felt something strange. Fear mixed with curiosity. They began walking through the crowd. People followed, throwing words sharper than knives. He deserves this. Let him rot with that creature. But the alien... She walked calmly. Her head was high, her strange eyes scanning everything. It was almost as if she was not ashamed, almost as if she was waiting for something. Back at his small home, Armin pushed open the wooden door. The alien entered first, her chains dragging across the floor. The house was quiet, dark, and suffocating. Armin closed the door behind him and leaned against it, breathing hard. His life had changed forever. The alien sat silently on the floor, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. She did not speak. She did not cry. She only stared at him, and then at the walls, as if she could see something hidden inside them. Armin's heart raced. A thought whispered in his mind. This is not just a punishment. This is something else. Something far worse. Or maybe far greater. The silence stretched long into the night. Only the sound of the alien's chains and her slow, steady breathing filled the room, and in that silence Armin realized his punishment had truly arrived. The house was silent. Too silent. Armin stood near the wooden door, his hands still trembling from holding the cold chain of the alien. The evening shadows had already crawled inside the small house, turning corners into dark holes. The alien sat in one corner of the room, chained, her glowing eyes half hidden under her messy hair. Armin lit a single lantern. The weak yellow light filled the room but could not chase away the darkness completely. It only made the alien's face look sharper, stranger. Her eyes reflected the flame as if they were mirrors. But those mirrors did not show his face. Only emptiness. He tried to breathe slowly, but the smell was unbearable. Rotten, metallic, sharp. It was in the walls, in the floor, in his clothes now. He covered his nose with a piece of cloth, but it didn't help. The alien's stench was everywhere. Armin whispered to himself, "This is my life now. This is my punishment." The alien did not move. She sat perfectly still, her head slightly tilted, as though listening to something only she could hear. Her breathing was heavy, slow and steady, almost like a strange rhythm. Hours passed. The lantern flickered. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the wooden windows. The town was sleeping, but inside this house, the night was just beginning. At midnight, Armin finally spoke. His voice was low, broken. "Do you understand me?" The alien turned her head slowly, her glowing eyes meeting his. She said nothing. Her lips parted, but no words came out, only a faint sound, like a hiss. Armin's heart pounded. He felt foolish for even asking. What did he expect? That she would answer him in perfect human language? But then something strange happened. She lifted her chained hand and touched the floor. The wooden planks trembled slightly. Armin froze. The alien closed her eyes, and for a brief second he thought he heard voices, whispering, not from her lips but from the air itself. "Nahin, yesirf mera wahamhe," he told himself, shaking his head. But the whispers grew louder inside, his mind. Faint words broken like echoes from another world. He pressed his hands against his ears, but it was useless. The sound wasn't outside, it was inside his head. The alien opened her eyes again. This time Armin noticed something terrifying. Her pupils were not round. They were shaped like thin slits, like those of a serpent. And in the flickering lantern light, they seemed to expand and contract, as if alive. Armand stumbled back, his back hitting the wall. His breath came in gasps. "Stay! Stay away from me!" he shouted. But she did not move. She only lowered her head again, her chains clinking softly, and returned to silence. The hours dragged on. Armand tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he felt her watching him. He turned his bed toward the wall, but still, the burning weight of her gaze pressed against his back. At one point, he finally drifted into a shallow sleep. And then, he dreamed. In the dream, he was standing in a dark forest. The trees were tall, twisted, their branches shaped like claws. The ground was wet, sticky, almost alive. He walked forward, and then he saw her, the alien, standing at the center of the forest, unchained. Her glowing eyes were brighter than ever, lighting up the darkness. She raised her hand, and suddenly, the trees began to whisper. Their voices were the same ones he had heard earlier. Strange, broken words, but they carried meaning. Not punishment, destiny. Not punishment, destiny. Armand jolted awake, sweating. His chest heaved. The lantern had burned out. The room was pitch black. Only one thing glowed. The alien's eyes staring at him in the dark. He scrambled for a matchstick, his hand shaking, and lit the lantern again. The flame revealed her still sitting silently, exactly where she had been. But Armand's heart refused to calm. That dream, it felt too real. The wind outside grew stronger. The windows banged against the frame. The smell in the room became worse, almost choking. Armand covered his nose again, but his eyes watered. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore. "Why are you here?" he shouted. "Why me?" The alien slowly lifted her head. For the first time she spoke. Her voice was low, broken and heavy, like two voices speaking at once. The words were not perfect, but clear enough to chill his blood. "Because you are chosen." Armand froze. His mouth went dry. Chosen? What did that mean? Before he could ask, the alien lowered her head again and whispered something in a language he couldn't understand. The lantern flickered violently as if reacting to her words. Shadows on the walls stretched and twisted like living things. Armand backed into the corner of the room, his heart hammering. He realized one terrifying truth. This was not just a punishment. This was the beginning of something far greater and far darker. The first night was not just strange. It was a warning, and deep inside Armand knew worse nights were still to come. The morning after the strange first night was heavy. The air inside the house was thick, carrying the same unbearable stench of the alien. Armand sat by the window staring blankly at the rising sun. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. Every time he closed them, he saw her glowing eyes in the dark and heard that terrifying voice whispering, "Because you are chosen." The alien, still chained, sat quietly in the corner. She hadn't moved much since last night, but her presence filled the entire house like a shadow that could not be pushed away. Armand rubbed his face with trembling hands. "Yes, observe punishment, hey," he muttered to himself. She is nothing, just filth, just a cursed creature, but a small part of him didn't believe it. The strange tears that afternoon, Armand heard a soft sound. At first, he thought it was the wind slipping through the cracks of the wooden walls. But no. This sound was closer, softer, like someone sobbing. He turned and froze. The alien was crying. Thick, shining tears rolled down her pale cheeks. But they weren't normal tears. The moment they touched the ground, the wooden floor began to shimmer. Tiny sparks of light flickered, spreading across the surface like fireflies. Trapped under glass, Armand's eyes widened. His heart pounded in his chest. He crawled closer, unable to stop himself, his fear fighting against his curiosity. The tears glowed brighter. Where they touched, the rough wood of the floor began to change. For a brief moment, it looked alive. Green, Vines sprouting, flowers blooming, and then fading away into dust. Armand gasped. He reached out his hand, almost touching the glowing spot, but pulled back quickly. His mind screamed at him, "Don't touch it, don't!" The alien lifted her face slowly. Her glowing eyes locked on his again. This time they didn't feel cold. They felt sad. Lonely. Armand's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to speak, but no words came. The first spark night fell again. The wind outside howled like wolves circling prey. Inside, the lantern flickered weakly. Armand tried to sleep, but the memory of the glowing tears haunted him. His mind wrestled with questions. What is she? A curse or something else? Suddenly, a strange sound jolted him awake. A humming, low and deep, like the earth itself was vibrating. He sat up quickly. The alien was sitting cross-legged in the center of the room, her eyes closed. Her chains rattled softly as if trembling with her. Her lips moved silently, whispering words in a language Armand couldn't understand. And then light. Her body glowed faintly, a soft blue aura wrapping around her. The chains trembled harder, shaking against the floor. The lantern's flame grew, taller, brighter, almost reacting to her power. Armand's mouth fell open, his skin prickled with fear. He felt the air grow heavy, pressing down on his chest. The alien suddenly opened her eyes. A thin spark of light shot from her hands, striking the wall. The wood hissed and cracked, leaving behind a strange, burning symbol, something like a circle filled with lines, not human writing. Armand stumbled back, his voice shaking. "Stop! Stop this! What are you doing?" The alien stared at him with those deep, glowing eyes. Her voice, broken and layered like before, filled the room. Not curse, power, hidden, truth. Armand's legs felt weak. He pressed himself against the wall, his breathing fast. This wasn't just a slave. This wasn't just a punishment. This was something far beyond his understanding. The broken chains. Suddenly, the chains on her hands rattled violently. One of them cracked open, as if an invisible force had bent the iron. The sound echoed through the room. Armand's blood ran, cold. No, no. They said you are a slave. They said you are nothing, he whispered, shaking his head. The alien raised her free hand slowly. Her fingers were long, almost claw-like. She touched the broken chain, and in front of Armand's shocked eyes the rusted metal dissolved into ash. His mouth went dry. Fear surged through him. But hidden inside that fear was fascination. A strange bond. The alien stood slowly, her movements graceful but unsettling. Her glowing eyes softened as she looked at him. "You are not punishment," she whispered, her broken voice trembling. "You are key." Armand's heart stopped. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. The alien stepped closer. The smell was still unbearable, but now there was something else in the air. A strange warmth, like energy flowing between them. Her hand rose, stopping inches from his face. She didn't touch him, but he felt it. A strange spark, like electricity, buzzing on his skin. His vision blurred, and for a moment he saw images flashing in his mind. Worlds burning, strange skies, creatures beyond imagination, and then it was gone. The alien collapsed to the floor, weak, breathing heavily. Her chains clinked again as if reminding them both of her imprisonment. Armand's body shook. He fell to his knees, clutching his chest. Ye sab kya hai? Who are you? What are you? But the alien said nothing more. She only closed her eyes, her face pale, her body trembling as if the power had drained her completely. Armand stared at her for a long time. Fear, confusion, anger, pity, all mixed inside him. One truth burned clear in his mind. This was no ordinary creature. This was no punishment. This alien had powers that could either destroy him or change his life forever. And deep inside, for the first time, Armand felt something strange. Not just fear, not just shame, but a dangerous curiosity and a spark of connection. The next morning was quieter than usual. The sun rose, but inside Armin's house, shadows still clung to every corner. The air smelled of iron and ash, the memory of what had happened the night before. Armin hadn't slept. His mind replayed. The vision, the glowing tears, the broken chain, the strange burning symbol on the wall, and the alien's words, "You are key." He sat on the edge of his wooden bed staring at the alien. She lay on the floor, weak and silent, as if all her strength had been drained. Her pale skin shimmered faintly, like the last glow of dying embers. For the first time, Armin did not feel only fear. Something else stirred inside him. Curiosity, and something dangerously close to sympathy. The whispers of the town later that day, Armin stepped outside. He needed air, but the town wasn't kind. Men spat on the ground when he passed. Women pulled their children away from him. Whispers followed him everywhere. "That's the alien's husband. $5. Shame on him. He deserves her stink." Armin clenched his fists. He wanted to scream, to fight back, but he knew it was useless. The town had already sentenced him. He was no longer one of them. When he returned home, the alien was awake. She sat quietly, her glowing eyes following him. He avoided her gaze, pretending to be busy with firewood, but he could feel her watching. Always watching. The first words of truth. That night, when the wind rattled the windows again, Armin finally broke the silence. "Why me?" he whispered, his voice trembling. "Why did you call me Key?" The alien tilted her head. Her voice came, slowly, broken, layered like before. "Because you are chosen, not by me, by destiny." Armin's chest tightened. He shook his head. "Destiny? No, this is punishment, nothing more. They forced me. They laughed at me." The alien's glowing eyes softened. For the first time, her voice carried sorrow instead of terror. "They don't know truth. I was not slave. I was royalty." Armin's eyes widened. "Royalty? What do you mean?" Her breath trembled as she continued. "I was daughter of my world's king, a queen to be. But enemies came. They destroyed. They chained me. They sold me. $5, my crown price." Her words pierced Armin like a knife. He stared at her, shocked. This creature the town mocked as filth was once a princess of another world? The alien lowered her head. A single glowing tear slipped down her cheek, falling to the floor. Again the wood shimmered briefly with light before fading into dust. "I carry secret," she whispered. "My power is not curse. It is weapon. And the ones who enslaved me, they are still searching. If they find me, they will destroy this town." "Destroy you." Armin's heart stopped. His throat tightened. "What? Destroy the town? Why?" Her eyes met his again, glowing fiercely. "Because I escaped, and because now I am bound to you." The bond revealed Armin's head spun. He stumbled back, gripping the wall for support. "Bound? To me? What do you mean?" The alien raised her chained hand. Her voice grew stronger, almost echoing. "When our eyes met, when I touched your mind, bond was made. You saw my world. You saw the fire. You are connected now. You are part of my fate." Armin remembered the flashes in his mind, the burning skies, the alien worlds, the endless darkness. He thought it was a dream. But no, it was real. His knees weakened. His voice cracked. "No, I never asked for this. I don't want this." The alien's voice softened again. "Neither did I, but destiny doesn't ask, it chooses." Her words hung in the air like a heavy chain around his neck. The warning. Suddenly the lantern flickered violently. The air grew colder. A strange humming filled the room, the same vibration Armin had felt before. The alien's eyes narrowed. She looked toward the door as if sensing something outside. "They are searching," she whispered. "Not far now, they can smell my power. Your town. Not safe. Armin's heart pounded. Fear clawed at his chest. He thought of the people outside. The same people who mocked him, cursed him, threw stones at him. And yet if the alien was right, they were all in danger. He whispered almost to himself, "This is not punishment. This is war." The alien nodded slowly, her broken voice heavy with truth. "Yes. And you, Armin, you must choose. Stand with me or fall with them." The unseen enemy that night, Armin couldn't sleep again. Every creak of the wooden floor, every howl of the wind outside felt like footsteps of unseen enemies. He watched the alien as she rested, her glowing eyes half closed. She looked fragile now, but he knew. Inside her lived a power dangerous enough to burn worlds, a secret no one in the town understood, a secret that could kill them all. Armin pressed his hand against his chest where he still felt the strange spark from before. He whispered to himself, "I don't know if you are curse or miracle, but I know this. Nothing will ever be the same again." And deep inside, fear mixed with something far more dangerous, hope, because sometimes the most dangerous secret is not the enemy outside. It is the bond inside your own heart. The days that followed were heavy, filled with silence and questions that never ended. Armin still could not forget the alien's words. "I was royalty. I am bound to you. They will destroy this town." At first he tried to resist. He told himself, "She is not human. She is punishment. She is curse." But every day, every night, something inside him changed. Slowly, quietly. The walls began to fall. One evening, Armin brought food, dry bread and water. He placed it on the floor near her. At first, he expected her to eat like an animal, but instead she picked the bread slowly, broke it into small pieces, and held it carefully as though it was treasure. She ate silently, almost gracefully. There was pain in her movements, the pain of someone who once lived with dignity but was forced into chains. Armin watched, conflicted. The town called her filth, a punishment. But sitting there in the dim lantern light, she looked more human than any of them. That night, when the wind shook the windows again, Armin spoke without anger for the first time. "What was your name, before they called you slave?" The alien looked at him for a long moment. Then, in her broken voice, she whispered, "My name was Siora." Armin repeated it softly, almost to himself. Siora. The name felt strange yet beautiful on his tongue. Moments of change. The next morning, Armin woke to the sound of chains rattling. He jumped, heart racing, but what he saw froze him in place. Siora was not escaping. She was cleaning. With her chained hands, she had taken a piece of cloth and was wiping the dust from the wooden floor. She moved slowly, carefully, humming a faint tune under her breath. Armin stood silently, watching. For the first time, his house didn't feel cursed. It felt alive. Why are you doing this?" he asked, confused. Siora looked at him, her glowing eyes softer than before. "Because this is home now, and you are bound to me." Armin didn't answer, but deep inside, something broke. The hatred he carried since that first day began to melt. Laughter in the dark days passed, and small moments began to change everything. One night the lantern went out suddenly. Armin cursed under his breath, fumbling with the matchsticks. Siora tilted her head, and her glowing eyes lit up brighter, filling the room with pale blue light. Armin stared, then let out an unexpected laugh. "You're better than my lantern." For the first time, Siora's lips curved into something that almost looked like a smile. It wasn't human, but it was real. They both sat in the glow of her eyes, and for the first time since the punishment began, Armin did not feel alone, the fear of the town. But outside, things grew darker. The town grew restless. People whispered that strange lights were coming from Armin's house at night. Some claimed they heard voices, unnatural humming in the wind. "He is cursed," they said. That alien is changing him. He is no longer human like us. Armin heard these whispers when he went to the market, but for the first time, he didn't care. Their words no longer cut him like before, because now when he returned home he wasn't alone. From hatred to care one evening, Armin found Siora shivering, her body weak again after using her powers. Without thinking, he covered her with his only blanket. She looked at him in surprise, her glowing eyes wide. "Why? You do this?" she asked softly. Armin hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Because you are not punishment anymore. You are Siora." Her eyes filled with glowing tears again, but this time, Armin did not fear them. He let them fall, and when the wooden floor shimmered with brief light, he thought it looked beautiful. The dangerous spark of love. As days turned into weeks, the bond grew stronger. They shared food, shared silence, and sometimes shared words. Siora began to laugh, softly, brokenly, but laugh nonetheless, at Armin's clumsy attempts to fix the leaky roof. Armin, in return, began to smile when she hummed her strange, otherworldly songs. One night, when the storm outside was loud and the world felt ready to break apart, Armin sat near her and whispered, "I used to hate you. I thought you were curse. But now, I don't know. Maybe you are the only thing keeping me alive." Siora looked at him for a long moment. Then, in her broken but tender voice, she whispered back, "You hate me no more. You see me. That is enough." For the first time, Armin felt warmth in his chest, not fear, not shame, something else, something dangerous. Love. But shadows still remain. Yet even as love began to bloom, shadows still crept closer. One night, Siora woke suddenly, her glowing eyes wide with fear. She pressed her chained hand against the floor, listening to something only she could hear. Armin rushed to her side. "What is it? What's wrong?" Her voice shook. "They are closer. The ones who hunt me. They know I am here." Armin's blood froze. His heart pounded. He thought of the town, the people who still hated him, and the danger that was crawling nearer. But when he looked into Siora's glowing eyes, filled with fear and sorrow, he made a silent promise to himself. No matter what came, no matter how dangerous it became, he would stand by her, because what once began as punishment had now become his reason to fight. The night of silence finally broke. For days, Siora had warned Armin, "They are coming. They can feel my power. They will not stop." He wanted to believe it was only fear, only imagination. But that night, when the sky turned blood red with strange lights, Armin knew she was right. The enemies had arrived. The invasion. The ground shook. A low humming spread across the air, vibrating through the walls of Armin's small house. Outside, the townspeople screamed. Strange shadows moved across the sky, their shapes not human, not earthly. The hunters had found her. Armin ran to the door, but Siora's chained hand grabbed his wrist. Her glowing eyes burned with urgency. "If they take me, they take you too. We are bound." Armin's chest tightened. For the first time, he didn't see her as punishment or alien. He saw her as his partner, his wife, his only truth. "Then let them try," he whispered, determination in his eyes. The battle within. The house shook as the first blow struck. Wooden beams cracked, lanterns fell, fire spread quickly. Armin grabbed a broken piece of wood to defend himself, useless, he knew, against the power outside. Siora rose to her feet. Her chains rattled violently, glowing brighter than ever. Her body trembled as if torn between weakness and power. She closed her eyes, whispered in her strange language, and the chains shattered into dust. Armin gasped. For the first time, she stood free, not a slave, not a prisoner, a queen. Her body glowed with blue light, brighter and brighter until the small house was swallowed in radiance. The symbols burned into the walls earlier began to shine, pulsing with energy. The hunters outside howled, a sound that shook the earth. The choice Siora turned to Arman. I can fight them, but power will destroy me. If I use it fully, I may not survive. Arman's heart broke. His voice shook. No, there has to be another way. She touched his face gently, her long fingers trembling. You gave me name again. You gave me home. You gave me heart. That is enough. Tears stung Arman's eyes. He grabbed her hand tightly. No, you are not curse. You are not punishment. You are Siora, and if you fight, I fight too. Her glowing eyes softened. For the first time she smiled. A real smile. The light against darkness. The door burst open. Dark figures entered, their bodies twisted, their eyes burning with hatred. They were taller than men, armored, carrying weapons not of this world. Arman stepped in front of Siora, wood stick raised, ready to fight though his hands shook. But Siora placed her hand on his shoulder. Blue energy surged from her into him. His body burned with strength he had never felt before. His stick glowed with light, turning into a weapon of fire. Together they fought. The hunters swung their weapons, but Siora's light shielded them. Arman struck, his every movement guided by her power. The house trembled, fire roared, but their bond grew stronger with each strike. In the chaos, Siora's voice rose, echoing like thunder. No more chains, no more slavery. I am Siora, daughter of the stars. Her power exploded, blinding blue light flooding the entire town. The hunters screamed, their shadows twisting, dissolving into dust. When the light faded, silence returned. The sky cleared. The town stood still, watching the aftermath. The townspeople gathered, stunned. They had mocked Arman, cursed him, laughed at him. But now they saw what they could not deny. The alien slave was not filth. She was power. She was royalty, and she had saved them all. Arman stood beside her, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. His clothes were burned, his hands bloody, but his eyes were steady. He looked at the people, then at Siora. For the first time he felt no shame, no fear. Siora, weak but standing, leaned against him. Her glowing eyes softened as she whispered, "We are free now. Together. From punishment to paradise." Days turned into weeks. The hunters never returned. The town, once cruel, now lived in silence and awe. They whispered about Arman and the alien queen who fought beside him. Some still feared her, some prayed to her, but no one dared mock again. Inside their small house, life changed. The stench that once filled the air slowly faded. Where her tears once burned, now flowers bloomed. Where her chains once clinked, now laughter echoed. Arman often sat by the window, watching Siora as she hummed her strange songs while tending to small glowing plants that grew from her touch. He smiled to himself. They gave me this as punishment, he thought. But in truth they gave me the greatest gift. Happier than ever one evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky gold, Arman looked at Siora. She was watching the horizon, her glowing eyes softer now, filled with peace. He stepped closer, taking her hand gently. I once hated you, he said softly, but now I cannot imagine life without you. Siora turned to him, her lips curving into a smile that glowed brighter than her eyes. Punishment became love. $5 became forever, happier than ever. With you. Arman's heart swelled. For the first time in his life he felt truly free, and in that moment he realized, sometimes destiny hides behind pain. Sometimes the worst punishment leads to the greatest paradise. Together they had defeated darkness. Together they had turned shame into love. And together they would remain happier than ever.